it's an un-American, as you put it, Wayne. It's unconstitutional. And when you explain it to people that way, a lot of people agree that at the end of the day, the National Firearms Act is a tool that's designed to make it complicated and expensive to own the firearms that you have a constitutional right to have. And so, to me, we need to repeal that law, and then we need to eliminate the ATF. So I'll explain that. The ATF is a duplicative agency on the federal level. The state of Missouri, and I was a former state senator and state legislator, the state of Missouri has all of the agencies that we need to regulate everything that the ATF does. But what the ATF does on the federal level is they go into the state and then they commandeer state resources and tell local law enforcement, they tell your local sheriff what, they tell them what laws they want them to enforce. So when, for example, when the ATF passed a silly new rule change to ban pistol braces, a brace that stabilizes a firearm for people that might be handicapped or need it, they banned that. And there are tens of millions of law-abiding American gun owners that have pistol braces. When they implemented that ridiculous rule, not a single elected official voted for that. It was an unelected bureaucrat that initiated that and immediately made tens of millions of Americans potential felons. That is disgusting, and it's unconstitutional. But that's the kind of thing that the ATF does. They have a long history of violating people's rights. Going back to Ruby Ridge, that incident where they basically honeypotted an individual to try to get him to saw off a shotgun, then went and raided his family property, killing many members of his family. They had the incident at Waco that was a complete disaster. The ATF is the agency that's responsible for the Fast and Furious debacle, where they were basically, exchanging firearms with the Mexican drug cartels. It's an agency that just this year had an event where they went into the home. They raided the home of a local community leader, a bank, someone that was an executive at one of the local banks in Arkansas. They raided his home, and when they did, the reason that they did it was because they said that he was collecting too many. He was a collector, collecting too many firearms. And so they wanted to fine him under a brand new rule that they have enforced, that they've created about that. This is not, and what ended up happening is they shot and killed him. So this is un-American and it's unconstitutional. And Wayne, I can't thank you enough for the question. And it's something that not only do I support, but I'm the leader in Congress on. Okay, we have a question from Linda from Seneca. Linda, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. What's your question? Linda,
right down there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, why don't we, instead of doing so much off of no tip being, and all that Trump was talking about, no more tips, and then being, used anymore. All the tips would go to the people that are working. My question is, why not do away with Social Security and do away with putting us under the government for taxes, do away with that, and put us on gold and silver standards and set the people free from being straw people and having to pay any taxes at all. And I'm sorry for...
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. And okay, Linda, you had quite a bit there, and a lot of it I support. Let me break it down. So income tax, I support, and I have co-sponsored language in Congress to repeal the income tax altogether, to eliminate it. For the first, 100 plus years of the history of the United States, this country operated on tariffs and money that was submitted from the state legislatures to fund the practices of the federal government. In 1913, the constitutional amendment, the 16th Amendment, was passed that allowed the federal government to circumvent the states and tax people directly, tax their income. Ever since 1913, the shift of power has gone from the states to the federal government. And then the federal government wields that power by manipulating the tax code in order to control our lives. And then they manipulate states to doing their will. That's why I think we need to return back to the situation that we had before, where the federal government did not collect taxes on income. Instead, they need to rely on tariffs and aid from the states. That will return power back to the local state legislatures where it belongs. Your question on Social Security, and I'm not sure, I think that you may have asked, why not eliminate taxes on Social Security? And if that's the case, then yes, I support eliminating taxes on Social Security. If your question was eliminating Social Security, I'm not for eliminating Social Security. What I am for is shoring up the system and making sure that it's available. Because to me, Social Security is a forced pension. It's a forced retirement system on all of us that pay into Social Security. And so to me, it's government giving us a promise. And if we don't deliver on that promise, we're pulling the feet out from underneath a lot of people who have paid into a system, hoping that it's going to be there in the end. That's why if anything, I'm going to try to do everything I can to make sure that Social Security is there for future generations. All right, we have a pre-submitted question from Clarence, and the question is, why is this government giving away millions of dollars to foreign countries and almost completely ignoring victims of Helene? This is a really great question. I think you can look at my voting record and see that I've been whenever I campaigned, I said that the only foreign entity that I would support giving money to is our ally Israel. And I say that because they are our number one ally. They are in a vulnerable situation, and without the United States backing Israel, Israel will fall. The other thing, and I just have a soft place in my heart for the nation of Israel because I'm a Christian, and I've read the Bible, I've read the book of Revelation, and I don't want to be on the bad side of that. I want to support God's chosen people and the nation of Israel. That doesn't mean that we're giving them a blank check. I support responsible aid to Israel when it's needed. I have voted against all other aid to all other countries because I strongly think that this nation, we can't police the world. We can't get involved in every conflict. And so that's why I think that we need to put America's interest first and foremost. All right. So we have another caller. Her name is Alma from Ozark. Alma, are you on?
Oh, yes, I am. I actually, I spoke with the interviewer before when I requested to come on, but I understand my question is actually at the state level. I'm very disappointed with Proposition 3, which is the right to reproductive act, which is very deceiving. And I believe it was very poorly written, but I do understand that you only operate on that federal level. So he gave me some direction how to address it with my state level representatives. So I would like us to be able to do more on the. I mean, I think we've accomplished a lot on the federal level, and it is brought down to the state level, which is good, and I agree with. And I don't believe, I'm not saying that we should have a ban on abortions, because there are times very few and far between. But abortion as a means of birth control, we know as, first of all, Christians, but also just morality, human morality, that is wrong to murder our babies. And so that being said, I just wanted to address that. And I know there's not much the federal can do, but at the state level, that we need to really address the fact that was written very poorly. And a lot of people here in Southwest Missouri, I think, did not understand what that really was saying. I would hope. So that was just my comment.
Well, thank you, Alma. I couldn't agree with you more. I am so, the election night, I was elated that Donald Trump won, and but I could not be happy because Amendment 3 passed, and I grieve for our state. I think that taking a public vote for the right to, in my opinion, murder the infant, and it is abhorrent to me. Now, what can be done about it? And I was very public during that campaign. If you saw any of my social media, you saw that was pretty much the only thing that I was talking about, was trying to get the word out to tell people to vote no against that disastrous amendment. Look, folks, regardless of where you stand on the issue of pro-life and pro-choice, this amendment was absolutely the most radical version that you could possibly get, because it completely took away the legislature's ability to regulate abortions in Missouri. Abortions are now eligible to be done all the way up to birth. In addition, the language, there's the word woman is not even included in the bill. It's a person with reproductive rights. So the language of the bill was purposefully vague, and the language that matches throughout what we see in other states and around the country, language for reaffirming care. So for gender reaffirming care or gender transition surgeries, this language opens the door for taxpayer state funds to pay for other people's gender transition surgeries, and takes away the legislature's ability to regulate all of this. It's just, to me, it's the most radical bill, and it's sad that I'm extremely sad that it passed. And I hope and pray that my old friends in the state legislature are able to address this issue. And not only do they need to address this and try to put a fix in the Constitution, but we have got a problem in Missouri. We have got a real problem with outside money and billionaires, liberal billionaires like George Soros, come in and they can easily buy the state of Missouri by putting something on the ballot and just getting a simple 51% vote. That's look, while that might be democracy is, as Benjamin Franklin put it, two wolves and a sheep taking a vote on what's for dinner. This is a constitutional republic, and there's a difference. And it's extremely important that we have a system in place that we make sure that your constitutional rights are not so easily thrown away by a simple majority vote. Imagine if they put into state constitution something that took away other rights. It would be awful. This is why on the federal level, the U.S. Constitution requires a 2/3 vote from the members of Congress in order to even suggest a change to the Constitution to the states. And then it requires 3/4 of the states, 75% of the states, to adopt the change or the amendment to the Constitution. But in Missouri, because it's just a simple majority at 50%, it's super easy to change the state constitution, which is why all these liberal groups bring forward efforts like making marijuana legal, making gambling legal. We had the a green energy bill go through. A lot of crazy things that would never make their way through a legislative body have been put into the Missouri Constitution. And the truth is, like, when I pull out the U.S. Constitution, it can fit in your pocket, right? It's simple. It's your rights. But the Missouri Constitution is probably 1,000 pages long. It's a huge document now because of all of these amendments that have been added to it. It's ridiculous, and the legislature not only needs to fix Amendment 3, but they need to fix our whole process for making changes to the Constitution. Okay, so we've got the results of the first poll, and the question that we asked was, do you think that the U.S. should impose tariffs on Mexico, Canada, China to combat illegal immigration and illicit drug trade? I'm very surprised. The poll results were 85% yes and 15% no. 85% yes and 15% no. All right. As a reminder, if you have a question, press *3 to ask a question. Okay, our next caller is Stanley from Seneca. Stanley, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hey, I was wondering what your how you're going to vote on the National Defense Authorization Bill. It's $800 billion plus. It's almost $1 trillion, and I think we need to rethink all this. I don't want all our money going to the military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower warned us about, and sending all this, And to add on to it, how does Joe Biden get the authority to promise $25 billion here, $100 billion there to Ukraine whenever I thought you guys were in control of the money?
Yeah, this town has got a spending problem. I consider this town a drug addict, and it's addicted to opium, or another way is other people's money. And so there's some provisions with the NDAA that I do support. I think that a lot of our money goes towards military contractors and other things. I do think that it's long overdue that we raise the salaries of our military personnel. So this does have a very healthy raise in it, 15%. But if you think about it, over the last they haven't had a raise in a long time, and 15% will really just get them back up to the inflation rate. And so there's portions of the NDA we've had we're reviewing the bill right now because to just see if there's any kind of red flags or issues that would cause us to not vote for it. But when the whip team asked me tonight, where do I stand on the bill? I told them at this point I'm undecided. And so I'm being completely honest with you that I have whipped undecided at this point because I need to have time to review every part of the bill and make sure that I'm good with it. So, okay, next question is from Carol, who's actually, I think, my good friend Carol from Springfield. Carol, you're on the phone.
Yes, I want to compliment you first for the many votes that I've seen. Well, the votes that I have seen and when you voted on the appropriations bills, and so I appreciate that so much. But I'm not sure that I know about them all, so I would love it if you would include in one of your emails, just list even the bills from this last year and how you voted on them. I just want to thank you because I know sometimes you're you're in the minority. You were a lot of times. So I'd like a list of those and give you another attaboy or two. Then second thing, I am so curious, and I was, well, disappointed that there was not more support for Matt Gaetz' nomination as the Attorney General. I don't. I do understand the Senate has they have the votes. I mean, they have the power, but I would have liked to see some loud voices. I love loud mouth. So if there's anything I would ask you to do more of, I like it when you do, but just be a loud mouth. Just I don't care who dislikes it. Be a loud mouth. And he just got thrown to the wolves, and I'm still just really disappointed in the way that went. Then third thing, and I didn't run this by your caller, but I bet everybody on here is going to agree with me. When are the requests for money going to stop? The election is over, and I get dozens every day, and I go down to it's a wonderful. Well, you know what Elon Musk thinks, and RFK thinks, and somebody else thinks, and I go down to the bottom. I scroll down to the bottom, and I find out it's the Iowa Republican Party wanting me to give to them. And today, I love Josh Hawley, but another request for funds. So I just would encourage you to tell your colleagues, give us a break, please, until next year. Anyway, mostly I want to thank you for the stands you take and your positions, and appreciate you communicating with us and letting us know what's going on. The more of that, the better. The more of that, we need to be educated, and we need to know what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate you. When it comes to the spending cuts, those votes, whenever I first got elected, my team, we combed over the budget. We worked with people like Russ Vogt and some think tanks, but we identified about 270 items in the federal budget that we thought could be cut or completely eliminated. And these included things like we found that the federal government was paid millions of dollars to fund a trans parade in Ecuador. Okay, drag show in Ecuador. We found that the federal government was going to fund a brand new FBI headquarters to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and the list goes on and on. I think today I just heard one where we were funding millions of dollars to study hamsters fighting if they and their aggression if they've been administered some form of steroids. This is ridiculous. This is your taxpayer dollars. It's being wasted, and then it's all debt, right? So it's going to be paid back by your children and grandchildren. And so I submitted 270 requests, and those 270 requests, when you counted them all together, amounted for over $500 billion, $500 billion in federal spending cuts, just to discretionary spending. So, and what has been very frustrating to me is to see when those votes would come to the floor, and not just my bills or amendments, but any spending cuts would come to the floor, what you would see is a few Republicans part ways and join the Democrats and stop the spending cut from going into effect. I can't think of a single spending cut that actually passed these last 2 years. And that's why, while I'm super excited about Doge and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm excited about that effort. I've been working with these people for the last 2 years, and I really do not have a lot of hope that this town can fix itself. This town is addicted to spending other people's money, and it's going to take, Elon Musk and Trump to take some of these people to the woodshed in order to get us to actually start cutting some spending. About Matt Gaetz. Look, Matt had a reputation whenever I first got up here. I had heard that he was, people said, well, he's arrogant or he's just self-centered. I was actually shocked when I was walking down the hallway, my very first, like maybe couple of days being up here, I was walking past him and I said, hey, Matt, I'm your new colleague from Missouri. And he stopped and spent time getting to know me, offered any help that he might have. And he was a very helpful member. I think he's probably one of the most talented, intelligent, and I wish I had his gift of gab. I wish I had his talent because he's probably the most talented individual I've ever served with. When it comes to your third item, Carol, when it comes to the campaign, there's nothing I can do, Carol. The moment that the election was over, the campaigning for the next election began, and so the other thing is like people are going to campaign, and campaigns are going to do what campaigns do. It's an unfortunate part of this job. It's actually my least favorite part of the job. All right. Let's go to question. We have a submitted question from Jenny. The question is, what are you going to do to ensure that the constituents who did not vote for you or your party are still heard? How will you address the concerns of those wanting to flee to a blue state? Look, I understand. I represent all constituents of the Missouri 7th Congressional District. I was very pleased with the outcome of the general election. I think it was a historic that 71%, 71.5% of you voted to send me back, and I can't thank you enough. And it meant the world to me to have that level of support. And regardless of if you voted for me, if you did not, I don't even know. When people call in and they want help from my office or they want to impart their opinion, we don't ask how you voted. I don't care. I represent you. I work for you. And so I just want you to know that regardless of how you voted or how you feel, I will be your advocate and I'll be a fighter. And at the end of the day, my attitude is this, and I'll say this to people who might be on the line who maybe you're a Democrat, maybe you don't support my views or me. I try to govern my life and the way in which I do things up here in a way that even if you don't agree with me, that you're not going to doubt why I vote the way I vote, and that I'm doing it because I believe in it, or I believe in that it's best for the district, or that it's something that we need to do to save America. Those are my guiding principles, and I do not get caught up in all of the other swampy stuff that happens in this town. I try to, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be in this office forever, and I want to look back on my time here and not regret what I did or what I did not do when I was here. And so that's the way I'm going to lead my life, and that's the way that I'm going to govern. Okay, we have a caller named Sherry from Kimberling City. Sherry, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right, ask away.
Hello. Well, my question is accountability. I watch Senate hearings all the time. I absolutely am appalled at the level of egregious accounts of lies and corruption, and there's no accountability. I mean, I watch them sit there and tell lies. I watch them. We know they've committed crimes. Obama, Hillary. You've got all the people that we watch the hearings on, but nothing ever happens to them. Why is that? Does there have to be a vote?
Yeah. No, Sherry, you're right. I'm disappointed too. Now, the Clinton stuff happened before I got here, but I mean, she should be in jail. She absolutely should be in jail. Look, they've put other people in jail for doing more benign things than what Hillary did. I mean, let's rewind the tape here. She took her her federal emails and sent them to her personal email system, stored on a private server in the closet of her apartment. Okay. Then, when she was caught doing it, she used a thing called, what was it, bleach bit or something. This is not a simple thing. This is a system that you use when you want no one to, no one to get the information from the computer. So she used bleach bit to completely cover her tracks, which is another federal law that she violated. So she violated multiple federal laws to hide from the fact what she was hiding from was the fact that her and Bill were in a pay-for-play scheme where the Clinton Foundation, Bill was traveling around the world collecting checks to the Clinton Foundation, a nonprofit that they had started that was funding their lifestyle. And it just so happened that a lot of the overlap of when a check would be written had to do with when the State Department under Hillary Clinton was doing something favorable for that particular government. It's absolutely corrupt, and she deserves to go to jail for it. But that was before I got here, and I'll say when I got here, I was part of I'm on the oversight committee, and it was part of the investigation of the Biden family. And I mean, I could talk for 4 hours about all the things that this family did. The Washington Examiner just came out with a paper or with an article day about the Biden crime family. But folks, I never thought in a million years that I would, whenever I got elected, one of the first things that I would be doing would be sitting in the basement of the Treasury Department across the street from the White House in a secure compartmentalized room, reading the suspicious activity reports from the banks that were reporting on Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and Jim Biden's fraudulent activity. So 170 suspicious activity reports. And they had dozens of bank accounts from all over. They had multiple shell companies that they were funneling money through and moving it around. And every one of the Biden family members profited from this venture. Hunter and Jim were acting as foreign agents. They were not registered as foreign agents, which is a felony. I mean, this is long. This story has long been proven. For a long time, the media said, "Well, there's no facts or there's no evidence." Well, if there's no evidence, then tell me why Joe Biden pardoned Hunter. And I wouldn't be surprised if before he leaves office, that he's going to pardon Jim and he's going to pardon himself. But our party is a party that when somebody does something wrong, we immediately address it. And so I think that we need to set the tone and the standard. And I've heard that Donald Trump say, like, his goal is not to go back and enact revenge on his political adversaries, as what has been happening to him. But he's also said, look, if somebody did something fraudulent or criminal, he's not going to protect them. So I think that you're going to see a return to a system of justice in America where Lady Justice is blind. And unfortunately, these last 4 years, Lady Justice has not been blind. And a lot of Americans who have been targeted by this weaponized government. And I think something needs to change. So, and I'm happy to see that Trump is going to do that. All right, we have another caller, James from Ridgedale.
Hello.
Hey, James.
Hi, how you doing? You're doing great work, and I work hard at my job, and you're working really hard at your job. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
My question was about election integrity. Is there some sort of system we could do on a federal level to at least purge voter rolls and get everybody in an equal footing for the next coming election? There's a new data coming out of California that they were just like more votes than people, and that's almost everywhere in like the Democratic areas. And I think it needs to be changed. So I'd like to see something done about that. So thanks for your work there.
Thanks, James. So let me back up and say, as a state lawmaker, when I was a state senator, I sponsored several pieces of legislation to try to strengthen and secure our elections. One of them was a bill to make sure that this came from my IT background, to make sure that our election authorities and their computers undergo a cybersecurity audit every election. The other bill that we passed was voter ID law in Missouri, so we require voter ID. Another bill that we passed was to eliminate the ballot drop boxes, because that's where a lot of the fraud occurs, and then to end the blanket mass mail-in voting. So Missouri went from being ranked as one of the middle tier states when it came to election integrity and election security to being ranked number 1 in election integrity and election security. So that's awesome. On the federal level, now that I'm up here, I co-sponsored the SAVE Act, which is a bill that to make sure that states are proving that someone is here legally before they allow them to register to vote. So it stops illegal immigrants from registering to vote. Surprisingly, there have been states that have reported, and whenever they did their research, found that there were tens of thousands of people that were registered to vote that were here illegally. So the SAVE Act would end that, and it would also make sure that that states, use some form of ID to verify that a person is a valid individual in this country and has the right to vote. All right, a reminder to everyone, press *3 to ask a question and press *6 to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Okay, we have another poll question for everybody to chime in on. The question is, do you think the U.S. should impose... No, I already asked this one, guys. Give me another. Oh, I got it right here. Here's the question. Would you be in favor of returning to a free market-based healthcare system without the regulations imposed by Obamacare? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. Question again is, would you be in favor of returning to a free market-based healthcare system without the regulations imposed by Obamacare? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. And I'm going to throw in here, I want you to take into consideration even throwing out the mandate for pre-existing conditions. So if you are wanting to return to a free market-based healthcare system without the regulations imposed by Obamacare, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. All right, we have another caller on the line, Jennifer from Highlandville. Jennifer, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I actually had several thoughts, but one that I've been kind of upset about is the racism problems in our country and how much I feel like the white American male is the most discriminated person in America, because everywhere you go, they want to put those questions: are you white or black or Latino or Chinese or whatever? And I feel like that encourages racism more than anything. And I was wondering, is there any way where we can take that off of all paperwork everywhere? Because if it truly is not a racist situation or system, we wouldn't ask those questions. Like when it comes to, for example, kids getting a scholarship. It shouldn't be this one gets it because they are black or lower income than the other person. It should be based on merit alone, unless it specifically is a low-income thing. But also, like when people are on jobs, it shouldn't be this person's promoted because we have like a quota to get, and we need to promote, people of different races over our white people, not because they're better, but because we have a quota. And I just feel like we need to remove that from the questions that are asked wherever we go. And I was just wondering if there's a way to, because I feel like that makes it an uneven playing field for the white kids and the white people.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be a reverse discriminant to anyone, but I feel like it is reverse discrimination. So,
I think that this country has done a lot to try to root out and eliminate racism and bigotry in this country. And so I think that that's been good. Where it went bad is when the pivot occurred. And I say the pivot. So when for example, the era of Martin Luther King Jr., when he was wanting to make sure that people are not judged by the content, not by their skin, but by the content of their character. And so that is where we were headed. And I think that we got there, and that's been a tremendous success. But when things pivoted is instead of being everyone having the equal opportunity to succeed in America, it became everyone should have the equal outcome. In other words, regardless of merit, everyone should have the equal outcome. And I think that's what's caused such a huge distortion. The other thing is that they've taken what I think is a noble cause to root out racism, and they have wrapped it into communism or socialism. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion is basically socialism wrapped in the marketable, words of rooting out racism. But it's not about that. It's actually, in my opinion, interjecting race where it doesn't need to be. And I think it creates for a hostile race environment. For example, we have universities who are turning down applicants who might be Asian because they say that we have too many Asians on the campus, regardless of how well their scores are and whether they're qualified to be admitted. And so that's horrific, and it's the opposite direction of where I thought this country was going. America stands unique in the world as the place of opportunity where anyone can come and be successful, regardless of your background and your history. And the fact that we have moved past that and tried to go in a different direction, I'm not a fan of DEI. This on the federal level is, I want many of the amendments, the 270 amendments that I worked on to the budget were to eliminate the offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the federal government and eliminate all of that practice. I'm sad that most of them didn't make it. I believe we're doing that in the NDAA bill. We're eliminating new DEI positions in the NDAA. And I strongly think that when Trump takes office, that he is going to, on day one, eliminate through executive order all of the offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion and return them back to what they should, return the HR function of the federal government back to the one that we all are familiar with, which is making sure that no one in the workforce is being racist. Okay. Our poll results from the previous question. Wow, and I'm really shocked at this too. I'm actually very pleased to see this number. The poll question was, would you be in favor of returning to a free market-based healthcare system without the regulations imposed by Obamacare? 88% of you said yes. Only 12% said no. This is exciting to hear because I think that one of the things I'm trying to keep in the forefront of the discussions with the Doge effort and with my colleagues when we start entering the discussions about tax cuts and budget reconciliation, I think America has had enough of Obamacare, and they're ready for a new solution and an off ramp. So one of the ideas that I've been working on with some healthcare leaders and thinkers in the free market movement is to create an additional marketplace that's basically an off ramp for people that want to get out of the Obamacare exchange and into a product that maybe has less regulations. So a mandate light health insurance policy or insurance policies that are not controlled by the federal or the state government, policies that are let the market determine what people want to buy, and if they're not happy, they can change their carrier and go to the carrier that they want. The problem that we have today is that all the decisions are being made for you. You don't get to make any of your healthcare choices because it's all being controlled first by your employer. Your employer decides which insurance carrier and plan that they're going to cover, and then the employer turns the rest of the authority over to the insurance carrier. And then the insurance carrier makes decisions about what pharmaceuticals that are priority for you. You have to do things like step therapy, all of the things. I mean, they tell you which network of doctors you have to go to. So you have to go, because you get your insurance through your employer, then now it's dictated to you which doctor is eligible for you to use. The whole thing is ridiculous. It needs a complete overhaul, and I think we can do it. And I'm going to try to keep that on the front burner. So we have, all right. We have one last question. All right. We have 1 minute left, so I just have enough time to close. I just want to say thank you for joining tonight's town hall. If you had not had the chance to ask your question or you would like to subscribe to the newsletter, stay on the line and leave your message, including your email address. Again, thank you so much. It's an honor to represent you. I'm Eric Burlison, your congressman, and I'm fighting for you. Have a great night.